The theater world was rocked months ago when the coronavirus pandemic suspended all live events indefinitely. But for Baldwin Wallace University, the show must go on. Hi, I'm Sarah McCord, a student at Baldwin Wallace, and I'm here to take you behind the scenes of the virtual production of Spring Awakening. And trust me, this isn't your typical Zoom performance. We're going to talk with members of the cast and creative team to learn all about what it took to put together this virtual production. So welcome to the Making of Awakening. Today I'm joined by Victoria Bussert, a professor of musical theater and the director of Spring Awakening. I've got a lot of questions about how this production came to be, so keep listening to learn a little more about Spring Awakening at Baldwin Wallace University. What was it like transitioning the show from the stage to a virtual production? Did any of the main themes change?
They definitely changed. I originally picked it because I wanted to amplify young voices during an election year. That was my original idea. And when then in March, when we all, had to go virtual, my thought was, I still thought we were going to do it live. I just thought I had it all planned out for how to do it with 6-foot distancing, with an audience of only 50 in a 450-seat theater. We would still do no live singing. We could have a live band. We would have live actors doing the live choreography, masked and all. And that got eliminated only like 2 weeks before school started. So we had to do an immediate pivot. There was something fascinating to me about all of us wearing masks and young people being muzzled, which is, exactly what was happening in the time period in terms of how these young people were not enabled to express themselves. But I found the parallel to right now in terms of the pandemic, I found it to be an additional fascinating parallel to me. I mean, originally this play was turned into a musical because the writers had the idea that the scenes would be in the time period, but the songs would be written in rock style to illuminate the inner life of the characters. And that's unusual because in musical theater, usually the songs are meant to further the plot. That's not the case in Spring Awakening. It's actually meant to illuminate an inner life. And that works really well with the approach that we're taking in terms of all the singing has to be recorded by each actor in their homes by themselves on their phones. So that's the only way that they're allowed to sing without a mask. So the idea that their inner life is being expressed without a mask, and then everything we do physically together is masked, has just propelled this to another level.
How were the rehearsals run for this production?
So what we have done in the first 5 weeks, another thing that we were told was normally the musical has the main stage from September, performances in November. That's kind of our space. Well, because the play that's going on that was rehearsing in the black box, the only way they could mount what they were doing was if we turned the main stage over to them for the month of October. So we had 5 weeks to film everything that we needed to film on the main stage. We had to get it done before we turned the theater over to them on Monday. So everything we've been filming is out of order. And we knew that we're calling the main stage our sound stage. We're literally going to finish filming in there Sunday at noon. That's the last thing that we will film in there. So we would do choreography rehearsals on Zoom. They'd be taught on Zoom. Then we would go over to the St. Eric's high school gym, because that school is empty now, we would have 45-minute rehearsals in the gigantic gym space to put everybody in the same space, and then show up on the main stage the next day, light it in like 10 minutes, and film each cast with a half-hour break in between filming.
Wow.
And then you never rehearse that number again. It's so different from anything any of the students have experienced. Because usually you work on a number, for a month.
Yeah, and then you perform it for 2 weeks.
3 days maximum is what anything gets. Sometimes, like the number we did last night, we just, like, there was no rehearsal. It was like, here's where you are, here's what's going on, we're filming it. Because we're about to start scene work, which will be on Zoom. So we have 4 weeks now of scene work but literally it's the same process where you get a night of rehearsing it through Zoom and then we're taping it. It's some of the best acting I have seen from some of these students because it's so personal. I mean, the fact that they're recording themselves alone and we tell them, here's the background we want, here's how we want you to light yourself. And they film it and then they send it to us and we put it all together.
Were there any major differences to doing the show virtually rather than on stage?
It's so much more theatrical than when you're doing a production on stage. As a director, one of my jobs is to, by the way I stage something or the way I light something, is to sort of control the storytelling where the focus is. In film, it's a 360-degree experience. So we have numbers with our camera people walking through the number.
Oh.
And then you just see that point of view. It's so exciting. It's so much more than I ever anticipated. And Matt Webb, who is our music director, is also our director of photography. And he is kind of fulfilling his life's dream of making MTV videos. It's astounding. And we're able to sort of work in magical realism where we can take what the theme of a number is and create it in a whole new realm. So we've been showing little clips to the cast and they just can't believe it. Neither can I when I see, because you can't imagine while you're doing it how it's going to come out.
Oh yeah.
And Matt's artistic sense in this realm is crazy. And they're going to be little, like, it's funny because at first we were trying to there's a car driving by, you can't film, you have to wait. And now I'm learning to embrace those things just in the same way as, well, the rock music isn't period either. So we filmed a thing at the Solstice Steps a couple weeks ago where about 15 of our cast members in full costumes, we said, just go sit anywhere on the Solstice Steps in between regular people who are there for the Solstice Steps. And it's fascinating because it's like saying, the emotions that these German teenagers had then is just like what teenagers are experiencing. There's no difference in it. Their clothes may be different, but that's what makes classical theaters. It doesn't matter the time period. We're talking about human truths. So it's just a really crazy, exciting process. And I am learning every day as I go, because we'll film something, Matt will edit it, he'll send it to me at 2:30 in the morning, and I'll wake up and watch it at 3:30 in the morning, and then our brains are, well, what if we did this? And then, light this, everybody sing this lit by a candle, and here's some Christmas lights, wrap yourselves in them and dance. It's just crazy. Stuff you could never, ever do on stage. We dumped 100 pages of an essay that was supposed to be written by the lead character.
Yeah.
So we dumped them on the entire cast, everybody trying to reach for this essay about sex. And then when you see how this actually got filmed, it's mind-blowing. It's so beautiful. So and you wouldn't know that because you're standing on stage like grabbing a paper, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you see this type of theater continuing in the future as we move more and more towards virtual programming?
I won't speak for theater companies, but I will say in an educational setting, 100%. I mean, it's crazy not to explore this experience. And again, for most of the students who have never been in a film
Mm-hmm.
and have to rely on themselves in a way that they're never asked to in theater because, we're just sending them away and saying, we want you to record this very vulnerable, intimate moment. It's, yeah, I really do hope we start looking at doing one of these every year. The people in the industry who are reaching out, who want the streaming. We have families in Japan wanting to stream it. We have a high school class in California that wants to stream it as a class. And then you go, what is going to happen here in the next 6 weeks?
Is there anything else you'd like to share about the show?
Our grad Ellis has created the most amazing collages that don't look like any Spring Awakening I've ever seen and are so real and raw. It's really cool just taking this journey together. It really doesn't matter if it's just the worst thing ever filmed. I know it's not, but it's just taking this experience, this journey with our students is
Yeah.
the best.